Hey mate, how you going?
G'day, Tim. What's happening, mate? How you doing?
That's all good, man. I am doing good, getting stuff done. It's been a good couple of days where I can just spend some time in the office and actually get some editing done, which is pretty hard to come by these days.
100%. I'm struggling with that at the moment. I feel like I come in the most weird times, and I'm in here in my office for like 10 seconds, and then when I am in here, we're like trying to record and do stuff for the podcast. So, it's a balance at the moment.
Yeah, yeah. I know. I'm trying to man, we gotta get this done. Like, we gotta do this. And you're like, mate, you're a hard man to get a hold of these days. Like, usually this is me. I think this is you're starting to see like life with kids, right?
Yeah, 100%. And also, I'm feeling like I'm trying to get a bit more of a balance going on in my work life, and which is always interesting and hard to do. And a bit of a routine. I think more so the routine is probably the thing that is probably coming along at the moment, and that's why I'm like, I'm not in the office right now because I'm doing X, Y, and Z. So yesterday we went for a 3-hour drive to see Jess's grandma, which was pretty cool. So she got to see her great grandson, which is pretty awesome. We did that yesterday, but that just we left at 7 a.m, and I think we got back at like 7 or 8 last night. So it was a big day, and by then I was like, well, there goes a day of work.
Yeah. So, dude, that's amazing. I absolutely love that. And those that know me, know how important time is, and having a balance, and making sure that you focus your energy where you can best serve your couples and serve your vision. And for me, it's all about what is the service that I want to provide to the world. What is how can I best support myself, support my family, support my couples by being 100%. So when you're 100%, you can give 100%. And that's my full mentality around it. And maybe we have a chat about this in a bit of detail. Maybe today is not the day for it, but there was a time that I reached a point of burnout, and some things needed to change, and I had to put some systems and procedures in place about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and holy moly, did that pay dividends, man? Did it pay?
100%. And I feel like, even just today, feeling a bit more refreshed and ready to get back into it before we've got a wedding tomorrow that we're doing. So, it's gonna be awesome because we're today we're jumping on nice and early. We're smashing out a podcast together, get some work done this afternoon. I've got an engagement session this afternoon too. And then tomorrow we're straight into, a wedding before the Easter long weekend, which is pretty exciting. And
it's going to be a good one. Yeah, it's going to be a good one tomorrow, especially they're coming from overseas. They're also in the creative industry, and the groom's a videographer as well over in the UK. So
the pressure
is on. The pressure is definitely on.
Love it. Oh, so good. Well, mate, I feel like today is a bloody good topic that we're talking about because it's something that I feel like it's important. It can really make or break the vibe of the day. It can really, elevate, I guess, as well. The experience for your guests. What are we talking about today?
We do talk about it in little aspects, and we drop some little nuggets about it, but we want to dive in a bit deeper today. We want to get to the core, and we're talking about, the considerations between that time of ceremony and reception, right? It's an important time. You're just married. You want to make sure that things are flowing. You want to make sure it's fun. You want to make sure it's you and it's unique. And, we're going to go through 5 considerations, when you're transitioning from your ceremony to your reception.
So good. And it can be one of those times that, it can be a little bit awkward in terms of some aspects. And hopefully, we're going to talk through some of these, 5 points. And hopefully by the end of it, you guys will get a little bit more of a better understanding as to what that time can look like. And, as always, whenever we're on the podcast and we're talking some crack, we're always going to, I suppose, give you suggestions, but it's not something that you have to do. At the end of the day, we're all for you guys making sure that your day is completely you. And,
this is something to take our opinion. Yeah, it's purely our opinion. We've done quite a few weddings, maybe we know a little bit, maybe we don't. I don't know. Maybe you can be the judge about that. But all we want to do is just provide some value for you guys. And from all the weddings that we've done and all the things that we've seen trends where, you know, like this works really well. And we've seen other times where, you know, things could be done like a little bit better. So we want to give you our perspective on it. And we hope it does provide a lot of value for you guys.
And maybe it's something that irks us or makes us really happy. Who knows? I know Tim loves it when I say something about irking.
Well, before we go into the first one, mate, what irks Matt this week?
Oh, what irks me this week? It's going to come up again today. I already know it. But you know what really irks me? It really, really irks me actually because I've had it recently. Is when and I'm sorry, I love all musos out there, and there's a lot of really great musos, but when musicians they're all set up, they're ready to go, and like either pre-ceremony, they're not playing any tunes. You know, they're standing there with their guitar or, you know, whatever in their hands. Like it's not hard just to play something anyway. And then post-ceremony, they play their one song, they pack up and they move back into the reception or something like that. I'm like, man, what a difference it could make if you played some tunes. Anyway, let's just, that's my irking for the week. And we're going to talk about that. Maybe we should just go straight into that first point.
Well, what a preamble for this topic.
If you didn't realize what we're talking about.
Well, you kind of screwed up our list, but that's all right. We're talking about entertainment as the first one. All right, entertainment. So look, it's a big one, right? Like after you're married, like it's, you know, people are excited, like they want to celebrate, like you want to celebrate, you want to get into things. They want to like really start to like get into the mood, and you know, one way to do that is to have entertainment, and I think that's the main one. Like, and it's probably good 100%. That we've done this one first because, you know, the weddings that we've done, like when there's entertainment, you know, like whether that be from a muso or lawn games or anything else, like something to keep your guests entertained, something to keep the vibes high. It just makes for like such a good environment. And, you know, this is really when, you know, not everyone like loves, you know, sitting down for half an hour for the ceremony. They do it, like it's fine, but people want to.
You kind of have to, right? It's a part of being at the wedding. Like you don't get a choice. So even if you don't like it, suck it up.
Yeah, like people are keen to get stuck into a drink. They're keen to like walk around, mingle, and chat. So yeah, definitely entertainment is up there.
Did you know I've had at a wedding, I don't know if I've told you this, but I've had a magician at a post-ceremony. He's just like cruising around doing like magic tricks with the guests. And one of them is like, I remember this one because he was like, it was crazy. He like makes you hold your phone up and he like guesses the passcode and unlocks your phone.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And you're holding your phone from like he could do it across our computer, like across the computer. It's crazy. And he'll be like, oh yeah, press these numbers and it'll open the phone.
No,
wild. And everyone, it's just like full mind blown. And that's actually really cool, I suppose, from like even the entertainment part of it, but also from like a photo perspective, because there's a lot of different like mind blowing emotions going around that you can capture, which is pretty cool. So yeah, throw that one into entertainment as well.
I'm just going completely mild back. What do you call the dudes that like draw you?
Cartoonist.
And gals that draw you?
Not cartoonist. And it's not well, it is a cartoonist, but it's not. Caricature. Tim is currently typing. Tim is currently typing. If you can't hear that in the background, he's trying to work it out. I'll just fill this gap with some of my voice for you. This is why we need music.
Take it.
Going back to the topic of entertainment, we need music.
What? I'm just getting painter.
It's not. I'm pretty sure it's a character.
I know.
Character. Anyway. Cartoonist works too. But anyway, yeah, definitely. We've had them before. Some live painting as well. People doing like live painting and, you know, things like that. Even throwing in, this is something we didn't even add to our little list that we made prior, but even putting like your guest book out and about early so that people can start to like, you know, I guess use that. I had a different guest book idea last week. Did I tell you?
Okay. So yeah, just so I don't forget, I've seen a couple of different like guest book ideas, especially in the like audio realm. But yeah, go on.
Yeah. So this one was like not audio realm because I feel like that's quite popular at the moment. But this guest book idea was, rather than it being a guest book, it was a guest painting. And so there was all different colored paints and size brushes. And the idea was that everybody went and made like they had a canvas sitting there, and everybody went and like picked up a paintbrush and painted something onto this canvas. And so
like
at the end of the day,
a section, like it's painted a section of one.
A section, like some people went ham and did like a whole entire like thingo, so like a whole entire like canvas, like they just went ham on it, didn't really care. But the whole idea is that like you're creating them an artwork for their home.
Oh, that's good.
And I was like, this is
actually if you've got
sick.
like some like uncreative like friends and family.
Oh yeah, like the first person that went up was like a 3-year-old child with his mum, and like the 3-year-old just like got held up and he just like slapped on some blue paint. But you know, like I suppose like this all comes back to like the entertainment part of it we're talking about is all about like, you know, entertaining your guests and things like that, like giving your guests something to do in that period of time, because you know at the end of the day it could be a short amount of time or it could be a long amount of time, or a longer amount of time, like we don't really know. So you know, you're going to plan that out in detail early.
Yeah, like nothing probably sets the mood like a magician, like a musician.
A musician. Yeah, let's go back to the music part, because we do think that's probably the most important aspect for sure.
Yeah, like a live band, a soloist, you know, like playing some acoustic tunes, like probably over a DJ at this point. Like for me, like me personally, that is my favorite. Like
if it fits the budget, 100%. Yeah,
for sure.
And going back to what irks me about that period is, and then maybe it's a question that you can ask your musician of, like, you know, like post ceremony, are you going to like play in my canapé hour or canapé time, or you know the gap between, you know, like when we're talking the transition between ceremony and reception, are you going to like play that period for me? You know, because I feel like if you're paying for a musician to be there and they're already there, yes, they may have to move their equipment slightly closer and things like that. I understand that. That's, you know, that's important. But I would definitely find out, you know, it's a question to ask. Are you going to be playing during my gap between ceremony and reception, or are you just going to play my ceremony? Once the ceremony's finished, you're going to whack on a Spotify playlist or something for me, or maybe not even do that, and just going to go and get set up for the reception. You know, it's just a little thing to ask, and it doesn't have to be for the entire time. It could be for 90% of it, so then they can go and still get set up in the reception.
Yeah, exactly. So just understanding, I suppose, like the logistics around, you know, like the timing of like what happens as well. So is a musician, are they booked for the canapes? But, you know, where is the reception? Like how, especially if it's a soloist as well. Like, how far do they have to move? You know, how much gear do they have to take? These are all considerations that you like need to take into account to ensure that, you know, you can get the most from this time between your ceremony and reception.
Which I feel like leads us perfectly into the next point, number 2, which is timing. And, you know, we've kind of touched on it already in point number 1, because all the things we're talking about today, it's in quite a small amount of time, but in like the overall picture, it's actually a really important part of the day, and there's a lot to fit into this small amount of time. You know, and I feel like me and Tim are always talking about this on this podcast of timing, and you know, we both think it's super important to make sure that you've got time to fit in all the things that you need to fit in into this short amount of time. So leaving yourself some breathing room and making sure you're enjoying yourself is something that's really important.
Yeah. So it goes back to the drawing board. What is important to you? Like, what's going to bring you happiness? What's going to bring you joy? What are the things that you want to do? What's your negotiables and what's your non-negotiables? All right. If you want to get it over and done with and get straight into the reception, like, and have like minimal like bridal portraits and like minimal time for photos and videos, and you just want to enjoy 15 minutes canapes and like get straight into the night, then that's fine. Like, plan it accordingly. You know, like, and have that like as parts like of your like, wedding planning, so you can like really plan with purpose. But if you want something a bit more relaxed, you know, you do want to go out for like bridal portraits, but you also want to, you know, you want to come back to canapes. You want to have a drink with family and friends. Like, you want to enjoy that time as well. And I know we love allowing couples like that opportunity. And when we tell them, you know, like, did you want to actually get back to canapes? They're like, well, we don't have to stay out here for photos and videos. Like, no, like, if that's what you want to do, like, let's do that. And as long as the timing allows for it, as long as it has been planned, as long as we're not rushing to get back to like the reception because speeches start in 15 minutes, you know, like, it's planning with intention. It's planning with purpose.
Yeah, and it's getting onto it early too. Like it's getting onto it before you've even, officially locked in your ceremony time and things like that. Like if you didn't listen to last week's episode, we spoke a lot about winter weddings, and this time particularly is really important for winter weddings because it does get dark early, and you don't want your guests to be sitting outside in the dark and the cold of the middle of winter, or etc. Like in summer, it's a little bit different because it's warm and the weather outside's beautiful, and like everyone prefers probably to be outside, but in winter it's the different ball game. So it's also thinking of a little bit around like the timing and how long you're making your guests or allowing your guests to hang outside, and what the conditions could be. Yeah. There's a lot to think about, but if you're not doing it from day one and you're not planning that out from day one, you're going to really struggle to allow that timing to work to what your needs and wants are, especially when it comes to locking in a ceremony time. And I feel like that's something that gets locked in relatively early, and you may not know, I guess, the consequences of having a ceremony time at a certain time that may not work in with what you actually want on the day.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let me ask you a question. So how long do you think you need for like portraits when it's yourself and a videographer?
With just the couple, or with both the couple and bridal party, like everyone?
Like everyone, yeah.
Everyone, yeah. I feel like it's such a misconception in the photography world, or not even the photography, but in the wedding world, and maybe for people that haven't been to too many weddings or, things like that, or they have been to a lot of weddings with different photographers. But typically for me, the misconception is that, we need hours and hours of photography and videography, and, that's just what happens. And it is what it is. It couldn't be further from the truth, realistically. In a perfect world, I'd probably love 40 to 45 minutes with the bride and groom, and then say another 15 to 20 minutes with the bridal party. So, you're looking at like an hour, maybe an hour and 15 at most, depending on, some logistics of, where we've got to go. And maybe it's how much fun we're having too. Who knows, or how good the light is, there's a lot of I guess variables around this, but it's something that, if we work off that basic timing, it'd be perfect.
Okay. So would that, just say it's a winter wedding, would that hour include the sunset session as well?
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like that's like we spoke about last week, is if you can mash all of this in together and you can allow yourself to shoot right up to sunset, you're going to make sure you're getting all the goodness, or for, a summer wedding, maybe it's the opposite. And maybe we're doing these 45 minutes into a couple of chunks, and you might only do 15 minutes after your ceremony, and then at sunset we're sneaking out half an hour during a reception. So there's a lot of variables around this, and it really does depend on the time of year. And that timing is going to be different for everybody. I do find when we're talking about timing though, in summer, you've definitely got a lot more time to potentially get back and hang out with your guests during canapé hour, and have a drink and have some food with them and really relax and not feel the pressure to go and take a lot of photos, because at that time of day, we're not overly keen on taking too much content either.
Yeah. So I suppose, when I think about it, there's been times where we've only had about 15 minutes of light. And that's 15 minutes of portraits for bridal party, and the bride and groom as well, or the bride and groom and groom. So I suppose we have to work with what we can do. We have to work with the light. Sometimes the rain sets in, and we only have that amount of time. But do you have a favorite season that you like to shoot in?
To be honest, I was driving home last night and I was like, I freaking love this time of year. And I don't know why. I think it's just because it's started to get a little bit cooler. It's starting to get a little bit darker, that little bit earlier, but not overly early. And for some reason, just the colors in the sky at this time of year, we're in autumn, isn't it? Yeah, it's autumn. That time of year looks good.
I've got a trivia question for you, right? What do you think is the most popular?
Here we go.
What do you think is the most popular time or popular season to get married in Australia?
Oh, I feel like it's spring.
Yeah, it's spring.
Yeah. I just feel like
autumn's
judging on
not far behind.
Just judging on months. Do you know what I mean? Of how when we're most busy, but then also I suppose at the end of summer. But there's not really end of summer as a question, but pretty much for us it's spring, not too hot, not too cold.
Yeah.
Got a bit more. I don't know. A bit more. I don't know what the word is.
Like,
I don't know. The weather's a bit more predictable maybe at that time of year. That's probably why.
Yeah, like it's not, but it's just more comfortable, right? Like if you're not sweating in your skinny jeans and your RMs.
Yeah, that's it.
And like in the middle of winter, like you're not absolutely freezing. We don't have our like massive puffer jackets on, and our fingers are getting like cold pressing the shutter button.
It's definitely, and coming back to like, all of the, like the whole reason of to why we're like, talking about this ceremony and reception, gap is like, like these timings are important, and the time of year is important to, consider. And, there's a lot that needs to happen in that time. So, yeah, look, don't freeze your guests off.
Well,
freeze your guests off. That made no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, I was hoping
freeze your
guests
off. I love stitching myself up. It's good.
And
let's talk about your favorite part. Let's talk about your favorite part, because I feel like whenever this part of the day comes around, you see little seagull Tim flying around. So we're talking canapes, refreshments, drinks, all that goodness that gets people excited after a ceremony. They're running for the bar, or if you're Tim, you're running for the lady who's carrying around the tray of arancini balls.
Or the grazing table. No, the grazing table. Here's where it's at. So if there's a grazing table, I'll be like, I'll set up a time lapse, and I'll get my tripod, set up a time lapse of the grazing table, and before I press record, I'll just like sneak a few, and then I've got my little plate, and I'm setting up the tripod, and
you press record, and then you go and fill your...
And I pretend to like, I love it. Love it.
Classic.
Yeah. Plus a nice little refreshment after a ceremony. It was always a good idea. Keeping your vendor team happy.
That's it, 100%. But and it's important to really, I guess, plan out. Like a lot of people ask me, how soon should I bring out food, and how soon should we allow people to have drinks? Like realistically, there's no rules, but it comes a little bit back to like what your, I guess, ideal is. And, when we're talking like usually post ceremony, we're doing family photos and things like that. Like in your family photos, do you want people to have glasses in their hands? Do you know what I mean? Do you want people to have beers? Do you want people to have drinks? Because like, if you don't, then maybe it's worth holding off on those drink service for a little bit, just so we can get those family photos done, On the flip side, other people don't care at all, and let's get those drinks flowing straight away. So a lot of it is just having a little bit more of a in-depth thought about some of these logistics.
Yeah, like I would probably suggest just hold off a little bit until you get some family photos done, until you get some important moments, and after the ceremony, we like to let you guys just enjoy that time. We don't like to pull you away straight away. We want you to, have those nice moments with your family and friends, and just celebrate getting married. And that's even before we do, a group photo, essentially. If the timing allows for it, we'll do it later. Sometimes we may do it, straight away, depending on, what the situation is. But yeah, considering, what time is your drinks package going to start? I know it's an added cost as well. It's a pretty significant cost to add it in a half an hour earlier or an hour earlier as well. Perhaps there's bar staff that you need to consider, and price considerations as well.
Extra booze.
That's all right.
All the above.
Yep. What happens later on in the reception? If you're starting up drinking at 4 o'clock, who's going to be
gone by 8
at 10 o'clock?
Yeah, 100%.
But so that does take us into another point. That's important moments, right? What's important to you? Give us a bit of a rundown of that, Matt.
Yeah, I feel like we've touched on it plenty of times in the past, but just to have it all in one podcast, the things that I guess are specifically important is obviously mingling and saying hello to some of your guests post ceremony. And, for us, that's a great photo op. We love that time. We love it when there's some raw emotions going around. There's some tears, there's some excitement, there's some woo girls, there's a bit of everything going on at that time. And it's a beautiful time, everyone's very excited to see you guys. The adrenaline is high. So obviously, mingling, saying hello to people is important. Yeah, then there's obviously your family photos as well. So rolling straight into that, off the back of that, there's your family photos, which are important to get as well.
So before you go into family photos, just as a caveat there, that time, when, as a couple, you just freshly married, you're having your congratulations with family and friends. That is probably my favorite time to get candid moments. Full
100%.
stop.
It's probably as well because you're actually
that.
mingling with your couples too. Like, sorry, your couples are mingling with your guests, which is, that's important, because sometimes throughout the reception, we're flat out and we don't get the opportunity to capture moments when you're mingling with your guests. But this moment is purely about you and your guests.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And like there's something that, I ask couples and it's like, what are the three things that are most important, like to you? Or if I could only shoot 3 moments of your day, like what would they be? And like, it's quite interesting that, I think probably more than half of the answers are actually like just capturing essence of the day, capturing the vibe of the day, capturing like family and friends and everyone having fun, like, which is really like unselfish of them, like, because it's their film, but they like, I love it because like they want to capture the day as a whole and the people that are important to them, and it, like, I love that because it tells more of their story, and it's just like some really, really nice moments, and man, do I use that footage.
100%. Yeah. And I guess that goes into a little bit of like, I guess the expectation, like, obviously there's an important moment there, and we spoke about it earlier in terms of like having portraits, right? And during your canapé hour, you want to hang out with your friends and your family and all that. We understand that. But there is a little bit of an expectation, I guess, that, from your guests, maybe, that you should go and have portraits at this time. They expect you to leave the canapé hour. They expect you to go and have portraits. Especially if the weather's beautiful, like they're like, why aren't you going and having photos right now? So I feel like, yes, it's great to be not selfish during this time, but also at the same time, it's okay to be a little bit selfish, and it's okay for your guests to hang out without you, because you're not there to entertain them the entire time. And, you do need to get those portraits. I do think it's a very important moment. And I do think that, you'd be disappointed
100%.
if you didn't get some of them. So I guess this is just us painting a picture, and, I guess I'm giving you permission to be selfish and also not so selfish throughout this period of time as well.
Most definitely. Like, I think for every photographer and videographer, like that portrait session is perhaps the favorite, like their favorite. It is like, and it's time, alone with the couple to like really like direct, or to really, get like that type of footage that you need, I suppose, to like tell that story. But you've got to think like this isn't your moment, right? This is their moment. So it's important to understand, what do they want? What's important to them? And like, yes, it's important to understand that they may not know what they want specifically. But it's your job, like as a photographer, as a videographer, like to understand and really like know the couple, so you can help direct them and take them on that journey. And I feel that's super important. And it's something that, like I love doing, I absolutely love doing, because we create fans, like, like I feel like our couples are more than just our couples, right? Like they're friends, basically. Bloody love it, mate. Absolutely love it.
Absolutely. And I suppose the last one which we've touched on, and it probably wraps up the whole day, is probably logistics. And it's just being on top of all things, meaning, like, what are the logistics around the day of, is everything all in the same spot? Do we have to travel from the from the ceremony to the reception? Are we going off site for photos? There's a lot of things to take into account. And, in this time, if you don't leave the time for all of these things to happen, all of the things we have spoken about so far are going to become very tricky to do.
Yeah, most definitely. It adds like a significant level of, stress, like I feel as well, when you're changing locations, because it's not just the time, like it's not just time from point A to point B. Like it's the time to move everyone, to get them in the cars. It's the time to move like the gear. It's the time to, like get everyone back into, back into that like moment as well. It's finding a location. Like if you're going off for photos and things like that. So there really is a benefit here, if it's something that's important to you, to make sure that, okay, like a ceremony and a reception in the same place, we're staying on site, or perhaps we're going somewhere super close, that's super sentimental, that's important to us, that we really want to do. And that's great. Like, as long as we plan for that, as long as, we incorporate that into our planning, as long as we incorporate that into our timing, so there's still plenty of time to actually relax and enjoy. Because the worst thing for me is chaos on a day. When a couple is stressed, when vendors are perhaps, like, well, we've got to do this, got to do that. Like it just doesn't like it doesn't serve like your day, and it doesn't serve like your vision. And it impacts your photos and your videos.
100%. And at the end of the day, like, this is why we're talking about all this. It's pretty simple, like, we're trying to help educate you guys to make sure that you're getting the most out of the day possible, and as we've always said, like, if you're really thinking about it from day one, you're going to make sure that you're getting the things that you want on your wedding day. And it's as simple as that.
Most definitely. Absolutely love it, mates. Any parting wisdom, any golden nuggets? I feel like we've just shared about 5 of them.
I've just shared my brain has been golden nuggeted out from today's episode, because I feel like, like, all the things we've spoken about may have been quite simple, but sometimes when you're hearing it direct in one podcast about a certain aspect of the day, I do think, hopefully that's helpful, especially if you're planning your wedding. And, if you're keen to hear more about, like, maybe some little, like, I guess, in-depth snippets of the day, and you want our 2 cents on it, our golden nuggets, please let us know. We're always keen to hear from you guys. You can jump onto our social media and send us a message. And as always, Tim loves it when you leave a little review. We've had a couple of them lately, Tim, which has been awesome.
We have. Let's give a shout out to Sam, Weddings by Sam, absolute legend. She left us one. It was super nice. Love that.
We've had one.
It was very, very, very touching.
No, it's always good.
If you leave a review, we'll shout you out.
Yeah, what a compliment! Get a shout out from Matt and Tim. Love it.
What a compliment!
As always, guys, we love to hear from you, as we said, and please leave us a review, because we love it when we get some nice words said about us. It gives us a little bit of a pick me up and a little bit of a motivation to keep on rolling on at the moment, for sure. But yeah, until next week, we will see you then. Bye.